In honor of the original unconditional moment that all moments have arisen from and will return to, in the presence of the world host beyond this world room and the system admin, the unconditional system admin beyond all conditional lives and manifestation. Hello, everyone. You're listening to a member of the human species who could not sleep and so decided to dive into the depths of reality. Tonight, I am speaking about what is the most important value of being. And I am zooming in on the notion of awareness of vision, okay, or awareness to vision. They're very simultaneous. Now, I am in this discussion not being like, guys, I'm saying this and everybody has to agree with me. Not at all. My approach here is to find the most advanced state of being, the most advanced self, the most advanced world, the most advanced civilization. And I find myself blessed because I have found the most advanced power source in reality. That means there are those living on Earth, their value systems only extend in the outer realms. Meaning that, like, if you ask most people what's important in life, a majority of people will say money. Okay? But if you envision the nature of truly what sort of world you're in, beyond the man-made constructs we've been looping in, you will realize more important than money is intelligent interaction. And more important than intelligent interaction is awareness to time. Or I should have said it the other way around. It's like, what's more important than money? It's your time. What's more important than your time? The experience is the quality of the experience you have. Just like a YouTube video can be watched in low resolution. Similarly, the same YouTube video can be watched in high resolution. So I am on this being on Earth, being like, wait a minute, is there a higher resolution life that can be lived here this whole time? So think of it this way. The world is too big to be owned by a personality. And the author of this novel that we're all living in, we're characters in, is beyond anything we find in this story. So as soon as human beings are ready, I think these lectures are trying to, it's like a broadcast to the species. Hey, we are alive in history now. There should be a great civilizational performance. We are reaching that point in human history where leadership is becoming meaningless. That means they thought it was just the death of chivalry. No, it's also becoming the death of leadership. Why? Because we're reaching a point where human beings are realizing The ultimatum is not about one point of view leading all. It's about what is most immediately universally accessible to all of us. They said the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. That means we should be universally living as humans. We're living humanly as humans only. You have these scientists, astrophysicists, giving these podcasts and being like, yo, man, you're literally made of the cosmos. You're literally the universe exploring itself, you know? And we're like, we never thought we'd hear an atheist say, but but in reality, I made coffee, I forgot to bring it. And now all I have to drink is cold water. Alright, guys, to continue. I'm trying to open up this perspective that it is inevitable. Everybody will be like this in the future. I'm an early bird. I understand. But it is the safest time, perhaps, to communicate these ideas. We are wondering tonight in this lecture about what is the most important value of being, and I'm bringing into the spotlight the notion of, okay, awareness, and the content within the awareness is the vision. To me, life is fascinating. There's levels to being a visionary. Most people don't know this. There's people who are visionaries in the outer realms. That's one type of visionary. They see outer events and they can envision further, that outer circumstance. Then there are inner visionaries. In the outer realms, they can't envision really far. They haven't really cared, but behind their eyes, they can, explore the universe in ways that many that can't. Okay, so there are those who are in some sense an inner visionary. Okay, they can access further vision internally when they're in silence, solitude, when they're alone, because maybe in their youth they've been judged or some sort of trauma is there, right? In solitude, they are like free from external reprogramming. It's like, yo, man, it's like, of course you love nature. Of course everybody loves nature. We're this like ancient biological technology that is in this unnatural man-made world that is happening so mechanically, right? And we're all like, yo, man, we're stressed. What is the meaning of it all? And everybody's trying to, it's so hilarious. It's like, what you find? It's such a, like, I could write a legendary short story about this, okay? That it's like, imagine there's the natural simulation, there's a natural world, and then inside it, not inside it, like where this natural world is, there's a human simulation that has been set up. A human world is overlaying the natural world. Okay, now imagine we've been born convinced we're thoughts in this man-made world. Okay, and we try so hard, and our civilization hilariously is designed. That means All psychology is adapting, not per se the reality. It is adapting to, in some sense, the unknown variables to the moment. I'm trying to tell you, as a human being, success is reaching like freedom, physiological freedom, financial freedom, you know, psychological freedom, all these freedoms. And then you're free to do whatever you want, right? You're pretty much in a system where you need to earn your time. It's the other way. People think they're making money. No, no, no. They're trying to earn back their time that is going for the maintenance of their survival based on this sort of system. So at the end of this system, the person, imagine, goes like, started as in a poverty-stricken country, immigrated somewhere and became in a capitalistic society and became a billionaire, right? When that person is a billionaire, what do? They spend time in like beaches, in nature resorts. What does that mean? That means it's like we succeeded in an artificial system, and the reward at the end was the natural system that was there the whole time. Spending time in nature is what we all crave, because they took a bunch of natural beings and put them in an unnatural system, and then they're like, yo man, I have nostalgia for trees. It's like, no kidding, you know. It's like, I never knew. Like if I get married, I'm gonna give my wife flowers every day, and she's gonna be like, "Yo, are you giving this because you love me?" I'll be like, "No, sweetie, I'm giving this because I love humanity, and one day it's all gonna become artificial and mechanical, and we should not forget nature." You know, you know. What I mean is simply this: that the most important value is our findings. I am firmly, I don't buy into the archetype of like student professor, you know, teacher student archetype. To me, we're all explorers of an unknown world with eyes that nobody else has. The value of self is only shown in its expression, and then it's about the contribution of the expression. That means that if somebody writes a book and like 10,000 years from now that book is like still important, okay, that means that book is being read by time itself. It's so poetic. Do you know? That means history. That means that the person who wrote that book, or whatever those ideas were so far envisioning that the future just reached them. Do you know? Sorry, guys, to continue. What I'm trying to communicate here is not a perfect expectation on reality. I am simply saying that it's about, we're an unknown. Okay, this is my view. If I was to explain it, and you guys are all an army of explorers, and I've been given the privilege to, speak to all of you. It's as if I see it as if it's 8.1 billion unknown forces that are experiencing their own existence as a moment, as an unknown moment of awareness. The moment is like the best way I've found to unitize the soul to some degree, even though it's mysterious and unknown. But we are an awareness, it's like, let me tell you this, like everything, look around you, everything you see, everything, physical thing, even yourself, It is found within the presence, instantaneous presence of an awareness. So without the it's like the awareness is there, then the conscious engagement. You understand what I'm saying? That means we find in the same moment we say, yo, man, I'm a body that has a mind, is the same moment where there's an unknown presence of awareness where we find our body in it, we find other things in it, in the world in it, we see our ideas in it. That means everything man as an individual has been able to individualize or consider individually has in some sense all been content elements in a system. The whole system is that unknown presence of awareness that's instantaneous. Do you understand? So in the same way, there's existence, and then so there's existence and experience, and from one side of the coin you're experiencing existence, from another side of the coin experience is existing. Scientists can explain to some degree how experience is existing. They cannot explain why we're experiencing existence in such a way. And the conclusions have led to people being like, all right, it's non-local and humanity's limited, and scholars are just chilling in lounges at this point in modern academia. Philosophy is dead in this world, you know? Because when you're too busy trying to fix it, you never wonder what else could be there. We are unknown beings in an unknown world. We've managed to find some simulated way of knowing things, and we are living in the subjective meaning overlaid upon a mysterious natural world. Okay? Even the word natural, I don't know how much it suffices. The depths of it is bizarre. So humanity from one angle needs to become responsible of the simulation. It's weird. From one angle, they're like, yo, man, I want to get out of this simulation. From another angle, it's not something to get out of. It's something to wield. And you might be like, what do you mean, Mr.Within? You're telling your viewers that they should wield the world? And I'm like, no. It's more like ego sits in the benches the moment you realize the magnitude of the unknown. Anybody who has an ego, anybody who has a mental illness, the moment you understand the magnitude of the unknown, you calm down. And you realize, wait a minute, in my simplicity, who was I? And you realize you were a being capable of being present in the unknown. That's very important. And after that, capable of being conscious and present of the unknown. Somebody says in the chat section, the understanding is beyond the human intellect. Yes, but what is the human intellect? And what is that understanding? If you say human intellect, you mean the ego? You mean the unitizable or measurable self? I am making this claim, okay, here. Imagine I'm sitting in a room, okay, Jubilee style, and there's a bunch of people coming and contesting my view. And they're like, okay, and the whole show is about me making this claim that we are unknown beings in an unknown world, and everything we know is a simulation that we've taken so seriously we've forgotten the bigger picture. People would come and say so many things, and I'll be like, yeah, man, everything's duality. Let me tell you, this is bizarre. I don't know if this was something that, I don't know, my soul moved this way and became conscious of this. At some point in this lifetime of mine, I've lived around 12,500 days. Okay? So It's equivalent to, how do I say it? It's like if I was to relive life again, this is a cool thing for any, like someone to even say, okay? If I was to, I don't believe in reincarnation anymore. I don't believe in karma anymore, even in the same way. I believe in a higher will, a higher order process. But I don't know how to say this. Like, there will come a moment where you will realize you're an unknown being. That's it. And you'll relax. And then you'll suddenly be able to control everything, every part of your mind. The fact that you're trying to, if you think an idea is trying to control the idea of the world, then you are in a, it's still too, you're still lost in the inner realms. Interesting. I was just reading the chat. Guys, let me get to the point of why I started this episode. I still haven't shared the deep idea that's just like, I gotta share it. This is the deep view. I'm asking myself, all right, let's forget personality for a second and just imagine if we were a random human being born on this planet. What would the game be like again? It would be a matter of treating life with a different intensity. When I look at my youth, life was more intense, but I was more alive. And when I've gotten older, I've managed to control the intensities of life, but I feel a bit hollow. Do you know? Man, somebody in the chat section says our only thing missing at this moment is to love. Listen, man. I listen to everybody who agrees with this view. I understand this view. But let me tell you, love can be selfish. Love can be based on the past. You only love something that fits this past pattern you have. You only love something in the present because it's being in a certain way in the present, okay? And many people don't love the future. How many people love the future? Do you think about the future even? Ask yourself. Beyond 3 generations of, let's say, 3 generations, imagine like somebody, like what are people doing nowadays? They're all accumulating wealth to pass it on to their next generations, you know? What is this game? Love is important, but before you love, you need to wonder about what's really looking through your eyes. I have, as someone who's been playful with the linguistic simulation, I have found so many narratives and ways to explain reality. But I cannot shake aside the fact that there is still more unknown than known. Everything we will go on knowing in this lifetime of ours, there will still be more unknown than known. It will still be a tiny part of this cosmos. The world is designed not to be understood, but more to be, in some sense, the role, the performance of the species matters. Do you understand? It's like there were people like Marshall McLuhan and Buckminster Fuller. They looked at Earth and they called it Spaceship Earth. And, you know, and I didn't hear that many of their lectures, Those guys were next level orators, evidently. But the whole point of it is now think there's a, this is how my mind took the idea further of Spaceship Earth, and I was like, there's an inside crew and there's an outside crew. There needs to be human beings that are responsible, for the inner realms of the species, and human beings who are responsible for the outer realms of the species. There is no championing things alone anymore when the manpower is required on a billion scale. It's like when I say what is the most important value of being, it's like I'm also saying, what is life living for? What is all of this doing here? That means it's like I can see there's a notion of mirroring in the outer realms where you're like mirroring the same body language, but there needs to be I'm telling you, there's a notion of mirroring in the inner realms, meaning that anything that you fathom, you can put a mirror in front of. Do you know? For me, the greatest shield has been a mirror. I think the greatest shield in existence is that which reflects back the same force. It is the only full counter to the moment I know, to reflect it back. That means if I was a king in medieval times, I'd build a palace where the walls were just mirrors. And mirrors at an angle. Imagine I build a kingdom out of glass, and it passes the test of time. There's so many greater forces a human being can fathom. There was this notable person by the name of Eleanor Roosevelt who said this remarkable quote that small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, great minds talk about ideas. And why was that said? It's because ideas are the masks of the context to the context that we find ourselves in. That means if we consider the brain having a sort of, let's say, limited, having a certain range of processing power, within the processing power of the brain has come an awareness to a moment that cannot be explained. We can explain something that has changed. If I ask you right now, what has not changed in this whole life? The awareness to form. I don't know how to say it. That has been constant in the waking state. To me, it's all about concept, context, and you become a free soul, I guess, let's say, even intellectually, when you can notice that the concept can be free. There could be so many different concepts in the moment, and the context can be free. There's so many different ways to look at those concepts. In an unknown world, people are fighting over what they think is true. Like it's I don't want to say it's childish, but it's like when you can envision a united species building the most advanced, that means, I don't know how to say it, guys. There's some part of me that when I ask myself what is the most advanced value in the moment, I just come back to the unknown. In all my spare time, ever. I think it started like this from 2014. Just whatever. And any time I have free, I'm thinking about, okay, back to the main problems of life. Survival is not the main problem to me. Survival is a minor problem. Okay? The main problem is, what were you doing here? And what is the depth of that answer? We need to like the roars of the species will be heard soon, the roars of the heart of the species. We're reaching that moment where whatever way you have been a human idea that has been based on the past is not enough. We're reaching that era in modernity, in human history, where people are outgrowing the past that has defined them so far. There was an expression, this phrase that said the cost of your old life, the cost of your new life is your old life. What does that mean on a species level, on a species scale? That means 8.1 billion human beings that have been conditioned to live in a world in a certain way. They're realizing the only way that everything can change is if everybody be inputs differently. Okay? Now, it is to our advantage that we're not a world of clones, where we just share the same human class. Everybody has different DNA. To me, it's like 8.1 billion unknown souls that have to decide now in human history. They've come to this moment where all of them have to decide, okay, we need to re-envision the value of humanity, because the way the global story is being told now is self-defeating. Do you know what that means? That means they're like, they're like, yo, man, why don't you go get a politics degree? I'll be like, I don't need one, man. The moment I realized all nations are in the jungle still, and it's a hunter games of every nation externally being internally telling to its own people, yo, man, I'm the best nation, and then I'm the most free and best nation, and then externally be acting as imperialist. So what's funny? Like, politicians are wearing suits and ties, but the way the idea of nationalism is a medieval idea. Do you know? It's like, how did they subjectify one planet that a species was living on, Like, can we all take in that, like, when we look in the mirror, we see members of the human species that in front of our eyes in the conscious waking state we can access and collaborate, and in some sense, how would I tell you? It's the globalization. Let me tell you what I feel is happening here. If the world was ending, I think the advanced potential of it would be manifest now. I can see if God creates everything with purpose that only God knows. Guys, if you want to bless me in the chat section, somebody is asking how to say it. Listen, let me tell you this. The greatest gift you can give Mr. Within is realizing it's like we're characters in a novel, and rather than you, like, giving me something in the novel, you noticing the handwriting of the system admin is more important. So praise is only to the system admin. That means the only thing worth worshiping is the value beyond all the conditional values. It's an unconditional moment. That means if that's the thing that's worth worshiping. I am just a manifestation of this era in history. That's what we all are. We're just born. It's kind of like, you drop out of an airplane. Similarly, you're born on a planet and you're trying to, like, get to the sky. It's all about living for the most advanced. Okay, my whole life, they were like, yo, man, your decisions have to be either good, they shouldn't be bad and they should only be good. And a good and bad ethics, my God, morality. Everybody is a professor on morality. Everybody should get an honorary PhD on morality, you know? Everything in life being filtered. Yo, did I do the right thing? Did I do the wrong thing? After 12,500 days, you get tired. You get tired of this duality being everywhere. You're like, okay, I get it. Everything's dual. Then you wonder what is not dual. And for me, the glow of what I found to be like a hidden world in the unhidden one that was boring for me. It was the glow of the realization that the same moment my known self has been living a known life in the known life in a known world, my known self has been living a known life in a known world. In the same moment from the beginning, I've also been living as an unknown self in an unknown way in an unknown world. So the unknown is equal to the known, but also greater than. It's very hard to explain. Deep down, what we are, let's say we look at the word human being. The human is explainable, okay? The being part is impossible to explain. But the clue is it's instantaneous. And the awareness to vision, and your vision is instantaneous. And from another angle, if I tell you what's the most important thing for a person, it's how far they see. What is wealth? Can somebody explain to me? Imagine somebody is a billionaire, but they've only been looping in one viewpoint their whole life. Interesting. I'm reading the chat section. Yeah, guys, the metaphysical history of mankind, it's like it'll blow your mind when you realize it was after 2013 that people really stopped caring for the transcendental nature of reality. It's so fascinating. Every speaker in human civilization, I understand it now, Well, I started off listening to Alan Watts and Terence McKenna. These guys, now I understand the task of every advanced communicator in the realm. It's out of, yes, somebody said in the chat, it's out of love, but I'm telling you, it has to be conscious love. You have to consciously realize you are an unknown force living an unknown life, and then you can know things again. It is about freedom. That means somebody in the outer realms, their outer realms, they could be free. Imagine a billionaire. Okay, and then there's a child in a poverty-stricken, war-torn country, and that child is not free in the outer realms. But now imagine that billionaire who's free in the outer realms is not free in the inner realms. He doesn't feel good about himself. When he wakes up, he feels like something is eating at him, But then you see the inner realms of the child in the war-torn, poverty-stricken country, where I believe the next great generation of philosophers on ethics will come from these countries. That child in the war-torn country that has lost everything, maybe in its inner realms it's free. Maybe it's free because it's realized the nature of reality. Maybe that child in their inner realms doesn't understand why her country and her family and everything suddenly was bombed, right? But in her inner realms, once she has no choice but to accept that, in her inner realms, she's free. You know, because this is not a really good view for me to say, but I guess just for it to be studied in the future, hopefully, further by other people. It's like people talked about suffering, but suffering was a polite word for existence torturing consciousness. And it's not that existence is torturing consciousness, it's that consciousness is designed, just like how in the anime Japanese comic Dragon Ball Z, like Goku, he was designed for events in the world constantly pushing him, and for him to surpass his limits, which always came at the cost of a transformation. What is life? An event we're all trying to know, but we never can. It was all about how we attended it. It's strange. You know, Alan Watts had this thing where he's like, you don't listen to a symphony to just hear the end note. And when you realize that, you don't live life just to reach the ending. You live life with a fascination of its development. Sorry guys, this wasn't on mute and I was chugging water. Excuse me. Honestly, where can I go with this? When you open your eyes in the morning, imagine consciousness gives you a value proposition. You have a sort of immediate vision. You have the vision in your outer realms, your biological eyes, sight, first person point of view, like you see your hands, 180. That's your biological vision, right? But you also have an inner vision. That means you can close your eyes, light beams are not entering it, but you can imagine like the food you ate yesterday hovering in the air right before when you went to eat it, for example. In other words, light beams don't have to enter your eyes for you to be able to envision reality. And at some point, you're going to realize thinking is, in other words, the brain re-simulating the moment constantly behind its eyes. This is why when somebody's saying something, they get interrupted, they have to start again. They have to re-simulate the moment's rhythm. For me, I reached this conclusion. Everything is, I've been valuing it based on the past. That's super boring. Everything in the present, it's boring because I can envision a future probability of it. In other words, I wake up every day, honestly, only fascinated by the future and the mystery of it all, right? That means I've been a futurist for a very long time. And that means everything else is boring. Even when I talk to people, I just envision their most advanced version of them. Before I used to be like good person, bad person, that's nonsense. There's so many ways to look at life that even surpass duality. You'll see me really getting into that in my earlier lectures. But I don't know, part of me feels like, okay, in consciousness, a person's value is based on their vision. That means if there was 10 people in a room or they had to decide on a strategy, they would go with the strategy of the person who had seen the furthest. So to me, the greatest value in anyone, in any intelligent being, is how far it is aware. It's like how far is the furthest reaches of its awareness. And you realize people are living as beings of vision, and at the same time they have this innate sense of wanting to belong. And it's like people want to belong, want to be somewhere where they want to feel like they belong in that vision. That's the key thing. We never thought about it this way, that emotions are just, we thought, are based on the outer realm body. But no, you can visualize a sense of self and extract the emotions of that and animate those emotions in the outer realms. All right, someone in the chat section says my phone's upside down, so the microphone's towards me, but somebody says, I'm reading this upside down, give me a second. Somebody says we suffer because we react to outside circumstances in an ignorant fashion. If you don't care about drama, nothing can harm you. Our emotional reactions to others' actions rule us rather than using them as a tool that they are. Okay, so guys, I was reading something that my phone was upside down. I was reading something somebody said in the chat section. Now, I think it's not about not caring about drama. I think it's about asking yourself if you want to live as an original self or as a simulated self, even though everything's simulated. But I'm saying, what's the attitude you want to have to life? Because for me, it comes down to a realism. Do you know, it's like is the glass half full, half empty? I'm like, no. First, we got to acknowledge where the exact level of the glass, water in the glass is. And then, once that reference point is established, have the reference points of full cup, empty cup. In other words, what I'm saying is, I don't think you can absolutize it in a way where, okay, I just stopped caring for that and the problem went away. No. I think how it works is that you realize a greater context, that the meaning of everything you were experiencing before is included. That means if I have a choice to see someone, and let's say they say something rude to me, whatever, they could be in the archetype of a rude person, in the archetype of let's say, polite person, but at the same time, like like my mindset sometimes is like, okay, that's an unknown being. Any assumption I have on who they are is incorrect. Okay? And at the same time, how do I say it? Can't believe I'm yawning right now. I'm trying to say the person is very unknown, and people are living their lives in accordance to a vision they have accepted. We human beings can see let's say a coffee cup at the edge of a table, and our mind can fathom what it would look like if it falls down. Do you know, the mind okay guys, I mean, organize myself here. Anyways, where am I going with this? We're wondering about where, like, every human being waking up and consciousness accessing reality being the emergence of a value system, and then this unknown force that's witnessing it all and moving as us, or we identify as, is how do I say it? It selects. The inner realms to me are like a room. I don't know how to say it. Every moment I'm in, a subjective room can overlay on top of it. Every idea is like, that scene in the Matrix, that hall of doors. Human beings are realizing they're unknown beings in an unknown moment. And the potential of that is very fascinating. I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you for listening, guys. Check out the Twitch. Might be on that later. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, and the most advanced. What are we? We are the awareness to the greatness of reality. We are the witness of the force that becomes the greatness of reality. In other words, find the system admin and then access the higher resolution life. And as you experience the higher resolution life in the simulation, you begin to realize the deeper game of the soul. That it's not just here to be looping in its own meaning. The unknown calls to us all. And once we can accept the known aspects of our life and also the unknown aspects of us, of our life, then you are a very advanced being. Once your inner realms and outer realms can synchronize. The advanced humanity awaits. An advanced civilization is in the stars for mankind, literally. Anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great night, guys.